Hello and welcome to Star Citizen Sunday. This is a weekly show which covers all the news over the past week for Star Citizen. I am your host Mac, so let's get on with it. This week, the new Crusader Hurcules is introduced. ATV brings us a new ship shape, plus we get the latest on the Carrack. I just want to say a big thank you to all my patrons. Thank you so much for your support. It is thanks to you guys that I get to do this. If you like what I do and want to help me make it better, please consider becoming a patron. Follow the link in the description below to my Patreon page. So, starting as usual with calling all devs, first question is, how far along are you with Crusader? Now, obviously Crusader can be broken into two sections. You've got the gas giant itself, or its landing zone, Orion. They've got the grey box of the landing zone already, so this includes the shops, the medical area, the mall, sort of shopping area. There's kind of more of a flavour pass going on with that. The big challenge, they say, is the planet itself, as it's a gas giant. They say it's challenging to get a gas giant from orbit, sort of how it feels going down from orbit to surface, because obviously you're not really supposed to go down to the surface, but they are working on the gas cloud tech, as we've heard, but they're not at the stage where they can create a full planet using this tech. But it is coming along. They say the little sort of way they implement it right now with the smaller cloud tech feels very nice to fly around in while they're testing it, but until they get the big gas cloud tech working, we won't know anymore. Next question is to do with Hurston's oceans, and what will be the first iteration of water interaction, so generally FPS-wise. And basically you will be able to eventually swim in them, maybe not for the first iteration of Hurston, it depends on what comes when. They are currently improving the animation and locomotion sets, which is the priority before swimming is looked at, but it depends on how long Hurston itself will take. So third question, will we be able to scan ships for internal life signs? Really like that question, very much something I would like on board a ship, being able to tell if there are more life signs on board your own ship than, you know, your known crew. Or even if you go onto a derelict ship, it would be cool to be able to scan through and see if there's anything being picked up, whether human or not. Now, they did say that life form scanning will be something they want to get, especially for onboard security. It may be a case, like normal scanning, that the first scan reveals the locations and how many of them there are. The next scan will then probably tell you more about the intruders. They also, while developing that, will need to work out the anti-scan system, so maybe a suit that blocks your signal so you can't be scanned hiding or masking yourself on board. Very similar to the scanning system which is being worked on now, where you have an initial scan and it reveals little information, and then the more you scan, the more info you get, and I'm very excited for that, especially when it comes to boarding actions. So final question, are there any plans for orbital markers above landing zones? Very good question. As we know, most planets at the moment, or moons should I say, have these about 6 markers where you can jump to, just to sort of allow you to navigate around a bit quicker. Not too great though, you still have to travel long distances and long periods of time to get places. They did say they're proposing a couple of solutions. The first one is they want to create kind of a nav mesh around the planets, allowing you to travel to more options. So instead of just having 6, having multiple depending on the size of the planet. And the mesh will scale depending on the planet size as well. They will never allow us to quantum travel through atmosphere, so another option is maybe to target an LZ from wherever you are on the planet, say at the other side of the planet, and then it will give you like your jump will spline you around the planet, taking you to the location you want, and then you descend through atmosphere. I'm not sure which one I prefer, probably the first one. It seems a little more realistic, but then you will have to keep hitting quantum jump, whereas the splining seems a bit more appropriate. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on those ones, guys. That's all for Calling All Devs. Let's move on to ATV. So Around the Verse was another ship shape episode, but to kick off with, they had the UK studio update, and apparently the PMA, the VMA, the Personal Manager app, Vehicle Manager app, has been integrated into the item kiosk. It's now animating the character on the kiosk as you browse items, clothing, and weapons will pop in and off as you check it out. They're also streamlining the quantum travel process for better functionality in the group system. They've got some UI mockups for quantum linking almost complete. Visual Effects is doing some scanning R&D for cockpit scanning. Very early work in progress, but it looks pretty good. I do like the look of this. They're also experimenting with space anomalies, which again looks really cool. I cannot wait to get exploring all these different space phenomena. The ship team is working on the interiors for the Aegis Hammerhead. They're just working on the colour and lighting. For the bridge, the cargo room and the captain's quarters especially. The 600i exploration module is now complete. They're currently working on the escape pods and the interior corridors. They're also nailing down the functionality and animation for how escape pods will work, which is something I'm looking forward to. The Mustang rework is ongoing, it's now in the final art stage. The props team continued work on hangar props, bringing movement and life in to the utilitarian hangars. Textures have had a polish, and the modular cable set has now gone through white box as well, and it does look pretty cool, these polishing of the textures, just getting them a bit more realistic and a bit more obvious too by the looks of things. They're prototyping a prop layout tool for environments which adds variety to locations like rest stops, for example. This sort of just kind of randomly generates these props around whether the food has a fork in or not a fork, or a spoon or cutlery or just something. Very much, if they're just adding it to this tool, it'll just make things look less repetitive, which is important for bringing realism to a game. Finally, the environmental art team is now focused on the visual development for Hurston and its moons. Lorville is looking very good. You can see a little work in progress of it here. So the ship shape. The 300 series is still in the design review. That's scheduled to continue work later this year. The 100i concept is now complete, as we know. The Orion is on hold pending resources, so there's no ETA on that one, unfortunately. The Carrack is in grey box. Because the Reclaimer is now complete, a small team who worked on the Reclaimer has moved on to the Carrack. And they're going to start with a bit of R&D into the style guide and interior guide sprints. This will be beginning next month, but it is not likely that the Carrack is going to be a 2018 ship. Don't expect it this year, more likely next year. The Constellation Phoenix has had its grey box approved, and they have now begun hooking up the doors and the seats and everything that interacts with each other. The Mustang, the Blade, the Eclipse, and the Hurricane have continued through final art phase, and to move on to the Hurricane now, which is coming into 3.2, this is coming along very, very well. As you can see, it's got 4 size 3 guns on its manned turret. The pilot and the gunner must work together well. Pilot needs to line up the turret so that the turret gunner can actually deal the most damage. It's got poor armor, poor shielding, so it does require some good piloting first and foremost, but great teamwork I think is important with this. They did say that the Hurricane is seen kind of like a swarm of ants. It will come in and attack, wiping out as much as possible, but it's not a dogfighter. Don't go toe-to-toe with a dogfighter. You won't survive. The dashboard for the pilot is very clean, keeping the player's view quite clear, but the turret cockpit has a few more panels, and when firing all the weapons at once, they say it feels great with all the laser beams going off to the side of the heads. So one of the main focuses of ATV was the new release of the Crusader Hurcules. Now this is military-grade transport ship. It's the Hercules Starlifter. The M2 is a mil-spec for transporting military vehicles into war zones. The C2 is your civilian cargo variant, which is kind of a large-scale cargo hauler. And the A2 is your Hercules gunship, very much like the C-130. Now this is a new role for the ships. It's this vehicle transporting sort of role. You can carry 2 Nova tanks, which is pretty cool. The base variant, they say, is kind of like a commercial hauler. It's white, black and red. Kind of a roll-on, roll-off ramp with at the front and at the back. It's got about 4 turrets, 2 at the neck, 2 at the back. It's got VTOL thrusters, an interior lift from the cargo up to the habitation and bridge. Looks pretty cool. The gunship version has 4 unmanned turrets. It loses half its cargo space, but it's still got lots of room there. It's got 4 stacked bombs, which can be dropped through the floor, or you can swap that out for a modular bomblet option, which does sound pretty beastie. The M2 Hercules, which has 1 size 3 turret at the front under the nose, and you can swap out a bit more cargo there for weapons, I think it says. But they use a command station during this gunship version to look through the eyes of the gun. Not all the guns are facing forward, so you will need other players or NPCs to utilize it thoroughly, but I think that's going to bring some really good gameplay, but it's hopefully not going to bridge onto the realm of trolling, where if you're in the middle of a desert, you're just basically screwed. Kind of true, but I don't know, you could be trolled quite a bit there. Now, it's 100 meters long, 70 meters wide. It looks very intimidating. They took similar ideas and shapes from the Genesis Starliner, as it's the same manufacturer. They will be interesting to see what people load in, they say. It can obviously hold 2 tanks, but it can also carry a lot of people, and those people can be deployed pretty quickly. That is something that I would truly love to see, is when you're in the heat of a battle, you think you're almost winning, and then down comes one of these Hercules full of maybe a tank or a cyclone or like a few hundred men. That would be really impressive if we can get to that point. Anyway, this is available on the 11th of May. It's currently open to only, I think it's either concierge or subs, and it is priced as followed. The C2 is £288 or Warbond £240. The M2 is £384 or 320 war bond, and the A2 is £560, which makes it 480 for the war bond. Now you can get the complete package, which includes them all. That is 1,232 quid, or for the war bond at £1,040. So it's very, very pricey. Anyway, do let me know if you've picked one up. It's always good to get these ship shapes, keeping us up to date with what's going on the ships. Very important, so I'm glad to keep doing it. The UK is coming along with some really good stuff as well, especially with the ships and Hurston. Can't wait till we can run around Hurston. Let me know what you think, guys. Let's move on. So this week's Reverse the Verse focused on two ships in particular. They were the Hurricane and the new Hercules by Crusader. Starting with the Hurricane, the first question that was asked is, will it be able to cool its weapons quicker than any other sort of ship turret because it's got 4 of them? And they say it doesn't have any bespoke system, and if you're running all 6 weapons that it does have, including the front weapons and the turret, then it will choke you out on power and heat. If the pilot is flying and the gunner is doing the shooting, it should have enough cooling to help it run efficiently. They did say that you can do about a minute of sustained fire with the staggered shooting mode, and it will run pretty well. That's obviously subject to change depending on when they start fitting stuff. But that's with just the stock default coolers and power plants. You can obviously upgrade them, which would make it a little better. Next question is it a long-range fighter? And they say no, it's more akin to the Hornet or the Sabre, so not long-range, more sort of a deployable ship. Next question is, can you remove the turret and replace it with maybe a single size 5 weapon? And they say no. Down the line, swapping the turret out is possibly going to be something, but they haven't got any plans for it, so we'll wait and see. Is the Hurricane a good capital ship assaulting ship? Now they say that a squadron of Hurricanes can be very effective against the capital ship, but not a singular Hurricane. That would not do too much damage. Does the Hurricane gunner have an ejection seat? Now the gunner has an ejection handle, but they're not exactly sure how it would work, whether it'd shoot out the bottom, out the top if the canopy blew off. That's something they're going to have to work out later down the line. Final question for the Hurricane is, what is its weak spots? Now, under the ship, the belly of the ship, the turret cannot cover it, so it only covers the top. It's got a full range of cover for the top of the ship, but underneath it is exposed, so if you are targeting a Hurricane, try and get underneath it. So the next part is all about the Hercules. This is the latest from Crusader, the latest sort of ship transporter ship. First question is, what is the estimated variance standard cargo units? And for the C2, it is 624 SEU. The M2 is around 468, and the A2 is about half of that, which is 234. What is the minimum and maximum Hercules crew ship size? And for the civilian one, it's just a pilot and a co-pilot like any other cargo ship. For the military one, there's a 3rd cockpit seat. And then for the A2, it says, I think he said there was about 8 seats total, plus 1 for the bomb base station. So that's a bit more. I think that's to do with the turrets, although I believe they are remote, so I'm not too sure why it's got so many seats for that one. Next question is to do with the gunship variant and whether it can fit a tank. And yes, it will still be able to fit a single tank. There's enough room to store it, but you will have to drive it in and out of the front, as the back will be designed or designated to hold the bombing system instead of having the entry and exit doors. Next question, can we securely store other vehicles in the Hercules? And yes, anything smaller than a tank, any ground vehicle really, all the snub sort of ships, the Aurora series will fit as well. So basically most ships, but not the ships with maybe large wings sticking out or specific looking design features. Question after that is the mil-spec variant, does it have different armour? And they say yes, like the Starfarer and the Starfarer Gemini variant, one of them has regular armour and the military one has heavy armour. So the weapon sizes for all the ships as well. The C2 has 2 size 4 fixed ballistic cannons behind the cockpit. These are deployable, and 2 size 3 remote turrets, 1 on the rear and 1 on the bottom. The M2 has 1 more turret on the front, so it's the same as the C2 but with an extra turret. And the A2, again the same as the M2 this time, but they added 2 size 4 ballistic Gatlins on the side towards the front, 2 size 5 ballistic cannons on the side, which sound incredible. And then the bomb systems, you've got a choice of big bombs, so 4 size 10 bombs, or you can have 60 size 3 cluster bomblets. So it is going to be quite a formidable foe, that one. Next question is to do with the interior, and they say it's a new style of interior. They've got it pretty much figured out in terms of space and layout. They have factored in everything which is required, but the interior is fleshed out during the grey box and white box stage, so it may change around a little bit. It does have 2 floors. The bottom is the cargo bay, and the top houses the rest, like your bridge and habitation. Can you open both doors and treat it as a landing bay? Now, apparently yes you can, provided that the pilot is good enough when he comes to landing in, so that will be something we can test out on streams. Any vehicle maintenance facilities on board the Hercules? No, other ships are designed for the maintenance. Same goes for torpedoes. The Hercules has no intention to hold torpedoes. There are other ships to suit that role. Obviously, they don't want one ship to do it all. That's why we have such a wide range of different ships. Now, what is the expected range of the Hercules? They said the idea is similar to ships in the same sort of size category. So the Caterpillar, the Starfarer, needs to have a good range. It is a cargo transporter after all. So look around that area. Does it have crew facilities for the additional crew of the ships it's transporting? No, it does not. It only holds the Hercules crew because it's more designed to move vehicles around. Not like the Idris that can carry vehicles to deploy. It's not a living base, it's just a transporter. What is the speed and maneuverability of the Hercules? They say that it's not a dogfighter, so the speed is more closer again to the Starfarer, to the Caterpillar, not too fast. And the maneuverability, it will actually be better in atmosphere compared to those other ships because it is often in atmosphere delivering things. And it's more aerodynamic, as you can see. But yeah, not too fast. It's not a dogfighter. You're not going to be able to turn on a dime. Final question is the Hercules only got ballistic weapons? And they say the small turrets are lasers, but the rest are ballistic. Anyway, that was Reverse the Verse. Pretty cool ship, the Hercules. Let me know if you've picked one up. They are way out of my price league. I mean, they're crazy prices, but cool ships nonetheless. So that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to leave a comment if you've got anything to say. Hit that thumbs up button as it really helps me out. And make sure you subscribe so you don't miss another episode.